It was the middle of November. The English countryside was cloaked in fog. At the end of a winding forest road stood Hawthorn Manor. Proud, tall, and slightly weathered by time. Its stone walls glistened with the residue of recent rain. The ticking of the old grandfather clock echoed solemnly through its wide corridors. Lady Margaret Winthrop, the matriarch of the house, was a formidable woman in her 80s, upright, dignified, and cold as marble. Every autumn, she hosted the traditional evening at the manor, a private dinner for a select group of guests. This year, the attendees were Colonel Redford, a retired military man with sharp eyes and a stiff gait; Dr. Eliza Hargrove, a university lecturer in classical literature, intelligent, observant, and reserved; Charles, Lady Margaret's nephew, young, well-dressed, but visibly tense; Vivian, Charles S., polite, graceful, but guarded; Reverend Blackwell, a soft-spoken priest who spoke in metaphor more than clarity; Mrs. Tilly, an old family friend and a lifelong collector of secrets; and finally, there was a surprise guest, Mr. Alistair Greaves. He arrived alone, unannounced and unfamiliar to everyone. When asked, Lady Margaret simply said, "An old friend of the family." As the evening wore on, the mood soured subtly. Greaves made everyone uncomfortable, not through rudeness, but through the peculiar way he looked at the paintings, the family heirlooms, ... Lady Margaret, at precisely 9 p.m., Mr. Greaves was found dead, slumped in a chair, a bullet wound to the head. The following morning, the fog still lingered over the hills. Detective Harold Blythe arrived at the manor. Known for his quiet demeanor and sharp mind, he examined the scene meticulously. The study was locked from the inside. The windows were shut and latched. The revolver lay on the floor. A single bullet had ended Greaves's life. Everything pointed to suicide. But Blythe wasn't convinced. He began questioning the guests. One by one, interview 1. Colonel Redford. The colonel sipped his tea with a shaking hand. Blythe, did you know Mr. Greaves before last night? Redford, I may have seen him years ago. Perhaps. Couldn't be sure. Yet his eyes betrayed a flicker of recognition. Interview 2. Dr. Eliza Hargrove. A short note had been left on the desk, allegedly written by Greaves. Hargrove, this handwriting is too neat, it's too deliberate. No hesitation. Not what you'd expect from a man moments away from death. She also noticed the paper was torn from a rare antique notebook found only in the manor. Interview 3. Charles. Charles claimed he had never met Greaves before. Charles, he was a stranger to me. But Blythe discovered he'd left the dinner table multiple times during the evening. Just for some fresh air, Charles said. His shoes, however, were caked with mud from the garden. Interview 4. Vivian. Blythe noticed a bruise on her arm. Vivian, I slipped on the stairs. But a servant had overheard Greaves speaking to her in a low, sharp voice. You don't remember me, do you? Interview 5. Reverend Blackwell. The Reverend was cryptic. Sometimes justice does not come through the courts, detective. Sometimes it wears a different robe. It's an old Bible on a side table contained a hidden letter, dated 30 years ago, bearing Greaves's name. 6. Mrs. Tilly. I remember that man, she whispered. Years ago, he came here. Margaret's brother argued with him in this very house. Not long after, the young man was gone. There had been rumors of betrayal, of stolen money, of ruin. Blythe reconstructed the sequence of events. Greaves had been drugged, not heavily, but enough to slow his reflexes. The study window, though appearing locked, was fitted with an older latch that could be shut from outside. The gun belonged to Charles, from his private collection. There were no fingerprints on the weapon, not even Greaves's. Most telling of all, Greaves's watch stopped at 8:45 p.m., yet the gunshot had been heard at 9 p.m. Someone had killed him earlier and staged the suicide. The final clue came from Lady Margaret's room, a small leather case hidden in the wardrobe. Inside, unsent letters, confessions, bitterness, letters addressed to Alistair Greaves. Lady Margaret's brother had been ruined, both financially and emotionally, by Greaves in a failed investment scheme decades ago. The scandal had destroyed the family name. And now, Greaves had returned, not for reconciliation, but for money. Detective Blythe sat across from Lady Margaret in the dimly lit drawing room. The fire cracked softly in the hearth. "Blythe, did you plan it alone?" "Margaret, no one else knew what he'd done, and no one else would have the resolve to stop him. He didn't come here for forgiveness. He came for blood. I gave him his." She stared into the fire, her voice steady, not cold, but calm. "He took my brother from me, my family, my name. Last night I took something back." Blythe nodded slowly, said nothing more, and in his official report, no names were mentioned. The case was filed as undetermined death, possible suicide. Lady Margaret never left Hawthorn Manor again, but neither did guilt. And so, another secret was buried within the stone walls of Hawthorn Manor. Alistair Greaves faded into the fog as quietly as he had arrived. Justice, perhaps, had taken an unconventional route, but it had arrived nonetheless. The house stood silent once more, listening only to the wind and the whispers of the past.